Oh my God, I talk a lot. Why am I smiling like this? Like, it's a sad story. Political things really hit me. In this video, I would like to capture the feelings I have as a foreigner. So basically, I wanted to share like what I feel, what I had experienced in the past 5 years living abroad, living away from my family, friends, home country, basically like living away from everything and anything that was familiar to me. Being somewhere where like no one knows you, like no one could like think like, oh, this person had this kind of childhood, oh, her parents are him and her, like, like no one knows that, like no one could even guess like where you are from. So this challenge itself opens a lot of questions, like internal questions, and also this discovers a huge transparent mirror in front of you. For me, this mirror allowed me to see who I really am, who I really was. I also noticed that in these 5 years, this being foreigner kinda has become a part of my identity, which means it has influenced also the way I think, the way I feel, maybe. So I wanted to share all of that. And some of them, actually, most of them are kind of vulnerable side of me. Yeah, so let's get vulnerable. I think I should give a little background information. I moved from Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia to Vienna, Austria. Mongolia is a very rich country, but not in global industrial or economic way. But Mongolia is rich in culture, history, and nature, and so on. So, and we all know Austria, Vienna. Vienna is one of the most livable cities in the world, I guess. So I wouldn't say like, oh, one is worse than other, but because you can find your happiness anywhere and everywhere. But fact is fact. On paper and in real life, like life quality wise, Vienna is way better than where I used to live before. Why I'm saying this is because this fact affects like so many feelings that I had experienced in the past 5 years also. I think like being first generation immigrant makes you feel so many new emotions. It makes you discover yourself from the beginning. So let's just dive into them. The first feeling that I'm about to share is being no one, becoming no one, and starting all over. Let me tell you how it feels like. It feels like you turn into a baby, newborn baby, with your this brain. So you have a lot of memories. You have already so much experience. You have just a lot of life in your brain, but you look like a baby. You cannot talk. You cannot express yourself. You cannot show that experience. This is how it feels like. I mean, if you move somewhere else when you are a kid or when you are at least teenager, I think that would feel different because you're still at the very beginning of the life, right? So your ego or like your like built up life is not that like intensely built. Like it hasn't found its own shape yet. Probably. It depends. But once you are an adult and you already experienced a lot, and then now you're in a new country, and especially if you don't know the language that well, and especially if it's completely different culture for you, that hits like, oops, oh, I am no one here. Actually, this is something I was seeking. I think everyone has this kind of pressure because once you were born somewhere and then spending your life there, you have your own environment, which makes you feel like everyone knows you. Of course, your environment, they know you. So, like, if you do something stupid, they would know. So, you always feel like kind of camera is on. So, I have to be this and that. And this makes you feel sometimes like as if you are in a jail, like, I want to be free. And that living abroad allowed me actually to have that freedom. I was like, oh my God, these people, every single person who is encountering me for the first time, they are seeing me for the first time. They think, oh, this is how she talks. Ah, this is how she thinks. Oh, this is how she looks. That's it. They would see me how I am, who I am at that exact point. You know, that's amazing. And I really enjoyed it, actually. I really love it. But after 2 years, I think, I started feeling the other side of this, which is loneliness and emptiness. Because back then, I was already someone to someone. At the work, I was a coworker to my coworker. That means I was someone. At the university, I was a friend of someone. I was a daughter of someone. I was a sister of someone. I was like first love of someone. But here, there's no such history. I am no one to anyone because they're just looking at me for the first time. It hurts your ego so bad, to be honest, because you cannot just let go of the past you. So let me share like some story how I felt that my ego hurt for the first time. I used to think actually I have zero ego. I used to think like, oh my God, I am Zen Buddhism. I am enlightened. Like I have zero ego. Like I've done shit jobs. Like I am fine. Actually, that was not true. I just wanted to believe that, I think. I came here 2020, which was the beginning of the COVID. I spent all money that I had. I had so much limited budget because my plan was like working immediately, like, but it was COVID. That summer, thankfully, like COVID lockdown has gotten kind of loosened up and everything got kind of chiller. And I found a job at a Japanese restaurant. And that restaurant is a like garden restaurant and which opens only for lunchtime and only for basically for United Nations staffs and other office. Like there were several offices and this restaurant is only for them basically for their lunch. I was waitress there. I started working. On the one hand, I was super grateful for finding a job because I was so anxious, like, oh my God, how can I put some food on my table now? And I started working there. I remember my first day so well. So in my country, there is no tip culture. So we don't give tips to waitress and waiters. Uh, and I was a waitress, right? I'm bringing the food, like da 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 da, happy. I have to give a background first. So I was a office person back in my country. I never worked as a service. I mean, I tried kind of becoming barista, but it was more just like hobby. So I didn't see it as a like main career. So it never like was a big question in my life. But my main career was more like an office and like I never had so much experience in this service. And it was just my stupid little brain that thinking like, oh, giving service to someone that's kind of embarrassing or like, oh my God, um, what if people see me? Something like that. That's just stupid teenage brain. And I thought by 2020, I was like, that's what I thought as a teenager. That's stupid. Job is a job. If you can do it, that's amazing. That's all. But as I started working as a waitress without knowing the tip culture, I brought the food to, there was a group of people, all suited up, all beautiful office staffs, very international. And I'm like, oh, one day I really would like to work like this too. Um, and they paid, and I suck at math. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And then I was like calculating and very nervous and serving in German with my A2 level. Like that was super nervous situation. And this man customer, I mean, and he was like, oh, okay, thank you so much. And he gave me, I think, like 4 or 6 euros in coins and like, oh, that's for you. And he meant that's tip. And I didn't know the tip culture. What I did, I was like, ah, but that's too much. You already paid enough. Because in my brain, I was like, oh, he just paid more without knowing. And he was like, yeah, yeah. Like, he was like, yeah, I know it's for you. And I was like, ah, for me. And he's like, yeah, just tip. And I was like, no, actually, I'm fine, thanks. I know, so stupid. I just put the coins back to him, like, oh, it's okay, thanks. And he, like, all of them looked at me like very kind of wondered, like they looked at me like this, and he's like it is for you. And I was like, again, no, it's fine. I'm sorry, I didn't know the tip culture, and I couldn't get money for nothing. I know, like, if you have tip culture, you know, like, but in my mindset back then, that's for nothing. That's my job to serve you. Why would you pay me more? That makes no sense because I get my salary for doing this job. And it hurt my ego so much. I was like, oh my God, someone felt bad for me, and that's why he gave me money because he felt bad for me. Oh, I look pity. I look pathetic. Yeah, I know. Judge me. I'm judging myself too. And then I realized also, like, for these people, they are seeing me for the first time in their life, and they see me as like, oh, there's one girl working in a restaurant and a waitress. That's it. That's all they see. They don't see me graduating university with the best note. They don't see like, oh, she worked at this and that position. Oh, she was this and that successful in this regard. No one sees that, and no one has to see that. And that's actually a good thing. But back then, that hurts me because I'm like, I am not only waitress here. I am not someone who you should pity. Like they were not even pitying. Like that's completely different perspective. But in my little brain, I was hurt because I had this little stupid ego. And also, I didn't know that in order to heal this pain of ego, actually, you have to hurt it even more. That's the only way you have to cure the ego. And there were actually so many other occasions. Like I was working back then, not only in this restaurant. I did all like everything what was possible back then. I started doing gardening um, of one customer who was actually like customer at the restaurant, like elderly man, like plus 80. And then he was like, ah, if you want to have another job, like you can help me like gardening my garden, like taking care of the flowers and so on. I did that. That also hurt. Also, I started doing babysitting. And I actually started babysitting because I was so much missing my little brother, because my youngest brother was only 3 years old when I left. So I was missing him. So I was like, oh, I want to be closer to kids. And then I started babysitting for a French family. And I started having kind of bond with them. And then every time when I get money from them, I feel so much guilt. I'm like, oh my God, I get money for playing with this pure soul. Like he thinks like I like him, I'm part of his life, but all I do is just to get money. Like no, like it feels wrong, blah blah. Like I am an overthinker, and yeah, such things. And I also cleaned someone's house back then. Uh, like after working at the restaurant, I went to their house or went to the gardening or went to babysit, blah blah. And when I cleaned someone's house, of course, I felt like shit, like cleaning someone's toilet. How would you feel? Like, I'm like questioning myself, like, is it you? Is it all you can do? Is it your potential? Like, but I had to accept one thing. I had to accept like I am no more that Jana who I was before I came here. I had to really separate these two people because in my head I'm like, I am not this person. I shouldn't do this. Like I was so much linking my current situation with the past, which was already gone. And I think all these things happened to me for a reason. And I'm super, super thankful for all. I'm super thankful for that opportunity that I worked in a restaurant as a waitress. I'm so, so grateful for that opportunity that I cleaned someone's toilet. That made me realize, this is a new life, and here you are no one. That sounds kind of negative, right? But that's a positive thing because you have this freaking adult brain, but you have this newborn baby opportunity. Create a new life. right? Because when you were newborn, you didn't know what the fuck the life is, so you had to just follow the flow, and then bam, you became an adult. But now you already know how life works, and you already have this adult brain, and the life gave you the second chance. And also, what's wrong with doing all these jobs? There is nothing wrong. And I think in order to understand all these things that I'm saying right now, I had to experience all of them. So, second one, what I felt as a foreigner was being a ghost, being outside of the box, being a no matter. So let me give you an example first. It's a little story time again. 4 years ago, I was going out of the grocery shop, very happy with my groceries, bam, 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 walking. And in front of the store, I saw that several people are handing the paper to just random people on the street walking, passing by. I think it was kind of election time or something related to politic. And then they were handing this kind of advertisement papers, like posters. I thought I would get one too, right? Because since everyone is getting, so I was like, okay, let's just get it. I was kind of prepared. But when I passed by, they just skipped me. They just skipped and then handed the people behind me or in front of me. And I was like, huh? Why? Like, why? Maybe I was too sensitive, but I thought, like, that makes sense though. Like, I don't vote here for an election. I don't vote, and then I'm not a citizen in this country. So why would they hand me this political paper, which wouldn't affect me or them? But it hurt me also, kinda. I was like, oh, I don't matter. I don't matter here. Like, I'm not a number here. It made me feel like I'm like a ghost. Like, my opinion doesn't matter here. And again, something very similar happened this year. This summer, it was election time again. I was going home from university, and I was about to take a tram, but there was no tram serving because of a demonstration. So the roads and everything was closed basically. And I had to walk just along the demonstration line. Basically, I had to walk with them, like right next to them along the same side. There was like a truck, and then there was two, three people on top of the truck, and then they had this like loudspeaker, and they were saying some mottos, like they were playing this like most like encouraging motivational songs, and like yelling, shouting, like, yeah, like equality, blah blah blah, like, and all this music, this bunch of people's energy, and like these mottos, this all gave me like goosebumps. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. But I started immediately feeling so sad. Inside of me, I know that there is so passionate Jana, just like them, just like these young people. If I were in my home country, maybe I would be doing such thing also. I would be like having like loudspeaker and like, oh, like justice, blah blah. Like I would be someone like that because I know that inside of me there is such blood, like boiling blood. But I realized, like, oh my God, I turned off that side of me ever since I moved abroad. Ever since I moved to foreign country. No one made me be ghost. I made myself being ghost. I was like, oh, let's be ghost because I don't matter, because my opinion doesn't matter. And I think I should be more interested and more involved, and that would make me more integrated, more visible. So if I choose to be invisible, who would see me? No one, because I already chose to be invisible. If I think like, oh, I don't matter, then who would think, oh, she matters? Oh, her opinion matters? Who would think like that? Because I already shut up. So who would listen to me? So that was it, and good night.